As the self-proclaimed queen and also monster of unhauling, they're interchangeable. The criteria for a book getting on this list was one thing. If it was good enough to go on my bookshelf, then it's good enough to be in this video. There are 11 books on this list. Now, I tried putting them in different orders, but the orders kept not making sense. So I decided to order them by page count from lowest to highest. Because frankly, I cannot be bothered to do it any other way. And those are facts. First of which is the only one that I'm not going to read a quote from. I started doing that a couple years ago and I really enjoy that, especially watching the videos back later on. But this is a book that's only 94 pages and all of the quotes that I wanted to read imply or state something that's going on in this book that it doesn't tell you in the summary. And I don't want to spoil it for you, okay? What I will say is that this is a pocket-sized, did I tell you what it was called? Crossroads by Laurel Hightower. I truly cannot remember if I said that. And it was 5 seconds ago. Imagine being in my brain. Okay, this is a pocket-sized pet cemetery where there's a mother, Chris. You know you love a book when you remember the characters' names. Chris, her son tragically passed away in a car accident, and every day she goes and visits his gravesite, and she has lunch with him. And one day she accidentally cuts her hand, and she bleeds onto the gravesite. She goes home that night, and she thinks that she sees his ghost. Like she sees his ghost, him. Is he real? Is it an apparition? What is it? On her front yard. And she's like, did I accidentally like summon him by bleeding on his like gravesite? She bleeds on it and she's like, did I summon him somehow? Only one way to find out. Yeah. Yep. And when I tell you, this really goes into a mother will do anything for her children. Anything. It's short. It packs a punch. It's insightful. I loved the romance that was going on in this book too. This man, that was a man. I loved him. We get characters' backstories to understand their relationships with each other in such a tiny book. Fantastic. If you want something short and easy to read for like winterween, this would be perfect. I gave it 5 stars and I highly recommend. And then we have the 8th book in the We Were Children series by Shauna McGuire. This is Lost in the Moment and Found. This was so freaking good and it was so impactful and dark. And that's something that I feel like people don't understand about this series is they'll be like, oh, it's a portal fantasy. Oh, whatever. No. Are children the main characters? Yes. But it is twisted. It is dark. It is like grim. It is weird. It is so freaking weird, but like also fantasy, fantastical, fairy tale. So in this one, we are following a main character, Antoinette.
I'm not going to go into what the We Were Children series is about. Sorry, just to let you know that because it's the 8th book. Be about it or don't be about it. So
this is following Ancy or Antoinette, who is a young girl. And she, in the very beginning of the book, is running away from home for a very good reason. And she stumbles upon this door and it leads to the shop of lost things. And it's basically like your childhood toy that you don't know what happened to it ends up in this shop. Things that you really cared about and somehow went missing. In this shop, there are doors to other worlds. So basically all of the worlds that we have seen through the first 7 books, there are doors to those worlds in this shop. And she goes through them and gets to experience these different worlds. But there's a price to going through the doors. There's a price. Yep, okay. It says, that was the 4th thing that she lost. The belief that if something made her unhappy or uncomfortable, she could tell an adult who loved her and they would make it better. So yeah, I'm going to tell you that there are trigger warnings for this book. I'm pretty sure you can probably assume what I'm thinking, but I don't want to say it. But yeah, it's good. Get on this series. If you haven't started the series yet, like, what is your deal? It's so freaking short. They're so good. I was about to say something bad about anybody who gives us a negative review, but I'm not. We're going to keep it kosher. We're going to keep it cute, and we're going to go to the next book. I am not recommending this, okay? I want you to hear me before I even hold it up. I am not recommending this because do I think you would like it? Absolutely not. Categorically, no. Sweetblood by Pete Houtman. I give this 5 stars. It's not going on my best because of the fact that I'm not recommending it to people. Like, it's not like I'm like, oh my God, if you like this, then you'll like that. No, you have to be a very specific person. The person you have to be is a type 1 diabetic that's been a type 1 diabetic when you were younger. So you had to deal with people that were above you, not understanding what was going on with you and you having to take control of your own medical destiny, but then also you have to have been a goth for all of, if not the majority of, your teenage years or tween years as well.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
That's the only way you're gonna like this. Also, if you have a thing for Draco, you would love this. But if you don't fall under all of that criteria, you're not gonna like this book. This is about a girl who has type 1 diabetes, and this really goes into it. And you will not understand this unless you have diabetes. Like, I feel like if you're reading this, you're gonna think, oh my God, like he's beating a dead horse. No, he's not. Because when I tell you, I think about my diabetes every second of every day. Every second of every freaking day, okay? And nothing has ever nailed it as much as this did. But basically, this is a book where it is a character study of this girl dealing with and grappling with her diabetes, but also it is where she kind of stumbles upon like a Reddit thread of people who say that they are vampires, and she does it as like a role play thing, like, oh yeah, haha, I am. But then one of the guys on there, she's like, is this guy actually a vampire? So yeah, what I'm going to read to you is something that really stood out to me. And again,
I'm reading things that I want to read to you. I'm not saying this is the best quote of the book,
but it meant something to me. So she thinks, the thing about non-diabetics is that no matter how many times you explain the whole blood, glucose, insulin, food thing to them, they just don't get it. First off, they think that because it comes down to the numbers and equations, you ought to be able to control it. Well, I can control it. The same way you can control how many potato chips you eat, or your temper, or a 6-month-old puppy. Sometimes there's just not much you can do. Bro, I'm so glad this exists. But again, you're not gonna like it. And then I have I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This was made in 1995, and it was by a French novelist. It was thus translated into English. But I cannot believe this came out in 1995. This woman was eating the men up. She was eating the men up. This is a sci-fi dystopia. Also, one of the bleakest books I've ever read in my freaking life. So we're following a girl who is in a bunker underground, like in a cage inside of a bunker underneath the earth with 39 women. And she is like half their age because when they were taken and put in this bunker, she was so young that she has no memory of her life outside of this bunker. The other women have a little bit of memory, but it's so foggy and they don't really understand. It's jumbled. So they don't know how they got there, why they're there, how long they're going to be there, what's going on. And there are men who come and put food through the wall or through the cage thing, but they don't talk to them. They won't look at them, and they like nothing, won't touch them, interact with them in any way, like literally won't touch them, to the point where if one of them dies, well then I guess you're gonna die. Like, that's it.
Oh my fucking God, she fucking dead.
And we are following from the perspective of someone who has no idea of social norms, of traditional schooling, of reading, math, like any arithmetics, anything like that. And that is so freaking entertaining because it's a perspective of somebody that you cannot relate to at all, that no one can relate to, and that, at least in my experience, has not been done before. I think that in certain aspects of it have been done in books before, but this is a very unique way of putting it. And basically, at some point in the book, a possibility of escape arises. And we follow how that goes. The one I want to read out of it, and this is just funny. I don't know. This is just funny. This is something I loved. Okay. The old women curse furiously, complaining about the indignity of being reduced to the status of animals. Oh, because their toilet is just out in public. Like, it's just out in the middle of the room, basically. Reduced to the status of animals. If the only thing that differentiates us from animals is the fact that we hide to defecate, then being human rests on very little, I thought. That's funny! Next, we need to give it up for the literary horror debuts of 2023. First of which being Liz Kieran's Night's Edge. This is a book about vampires. That's good. It's a book about lesbians. That's good. Both being in the same book. Toxic relationships that are good. Could couldn't be most other books, I'll tell you that. So in this world, vampires are considered like a virus. So in our world where you have SARS, in this world there's Sarah. And when people go into facilities, doctor's offices, gas stations, hotels, anything, just how in our panorama you would get scanned with the temperature wand to see if you had a temperature. Here they like prick your finger like how I do with my diabetes. Did I mention we're going to talk about diabetes a lot? Anyway, they check that to see if you are a Sarah. And if you are, then they snatch you up and they take you to a government-run facility where they go, oh, we're just gonna help you. But then like a week later, they call and they're like, oh my God, they died. What? No, they're dead. How? I'm sorry, you're breaking up. What? Bye. Yeah. And we have our main character who is 10 years old during half of the plot. And then the other timeline is her when she's like almost 30. And I'm going to read you the first line of this book, okay? I'm going to read you the first line. I'm hungry and it's 2 a.m. The fridge is empty and mom is dead on the couch. Tell me you're not intrigued. Tell me you're not intrigued. Tell me you're not literally going and buying this book right now. I loved this, where it's basically our main character and her mom is turned into a vampire without her consent. And because there's nothing she can do about it, and her daughter, who she loves more than anything, needs her, like she doesn't have a father figure for her daughter and doesn't have anybody else, and she can't rely on anyone because they're going to turn her in potentially for being a Sarah. It is following a character study of these 2 women/girls that have to do unspeakable things to survive and to keep each other alive. I love this. And again, I'm not gonna read you the quote because I want you to experience it for yourself. But if you've read this book, or when you read this book, the quote, "Come on, Barbie, let's go party." Gay! Chef's freaking kiss. Hear me out. No one is more surprised than me. Truly no one is more surprised than me. After reading Fourth Wing because of the hype and not liking it, because the book talk hype, I was like, I can't ever do this again. But then it got me again, and I loved it. And it's Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. So this is a girl who was on TikTok, and she was making a bunch of TikToks about tropes that she likes reading about in books, which is like the, not enemies to lovers, but like the grumpy sunshine and like villain and then the sunshine character. And she got so popular with these TikToks that she got a 3-book deal, even though the girl has never written anything in her life. She's not an author. I mean, she is an author now, but before that, she wasn't. And when I tell you that shows in this, because the writing is not good, but it is damn fun. It is damn fun. It's so much fun. Like, I feel like going into this knowing that this is a girl on TikTok who wrote a book, this is damn good. Okay, so following Evie Sage, and she is like a quirky little character. She is down in her luck because she just lost her job, and she stumbles across the villain, who in the book he's called the Villain, until you find out what his actual name is, in which was hilarious, by the way. But she stumbles across him as he's being chased by like bandit badmen, and they kind of accidentally save each other in the situation. And he's like, actually, you're like, you know, kind of good at this. Like, I don't know how you did that. Do you want a job? And she's like, yeah, actually I do. And the whole town / world, whatever, hates the villain. It's like, he's evil incarnate. Oh my God. And so she's like, why do I think he's so hot though? Like, that's bad. That's bad of me, right? Like, why is he so hot? And literally at one point she's like, you can't be a murderer and be pretty. Like, it's just confusing for people. Okay. Can you like try to be uglier? Which is hilarious. And let me tell you, this love story, it was cute. Okay. It was cute. One of the quotes is, I'll remind you that at your bequest, I haven't actually killed an intern in several months. Evie shook her head hopelessly. Sir, I hate to belittle your successes, but there are people who go their entire lives without killing anyone. His face remained serious. How dull. Like, that's fun. That is fun. Like, tell me that's not fun. Now, I get it. You know, it's not well written, but it's a good mother time. And I will surely be picking up the rest of the series. You can bet your absolute. The Writing Retreat by Julia Barnes. This is very divisive. People either absolutely hate this book or they absolutely love it. And I had a freaking fantastic time reading this. Like, absolutely fantastic. This is following a small group of women who are authors or want to be authors. And this one woman that is insanely famous, like she's like the Stephen King of the literary world in this world. And she says, hey, I'm going to invite 5 of you, randoms, and you're going to come to my mansion and you're going to write a book. And whoever writes the best book is going to get a 7-figure publishing deal. So of course, the main character is like slobbering. She's like foaming at the mouth, like, please God, let's go. She goes. But one of the people that's there is her ex-best friend / toxic lesbian love interest. Honestly, say less. You had me at that. That was that was the biggest reason I love this book. Their relationship was so toxic and so messy and so interesting.
I've got a bloody good idea. Let's use my gaydar in order to locate some gay people. They'll be able to help us.
But when they go there, they're like, we have to write an entire book in how short amount of time? Oh my God. But then the women start dying. And it's like, what do you mean? They're dying? What's going on? It's wild. And I freaking loved it. But it's also dark. It is dark and weird and fun. And at number 4, we have The Last Word by Taylor Adams. One thing that you have to know when you read this is that every single one of the 3 novels that Taylor Adams has written, he doesn't know how to end it. He doesn't know how to end it. Like there'll be like cliffhanger and then you're like, oh my God. And then cliffhanger and cliffhanger and cliffhanger. And you're like, okay. And then there's 17 more cliffhangers. And you're like, I thought the book ended 70 pages ago. Oh, we're still writing. Taylor's still at his desk. Okay. But if you can look past that, you'll love it. His books read like very action-packed, almost like comedic Clint Eastwood movies. This is something that if you are a booktube watcher, then obviously you probably are somebody that uses Goodreads or Storygraph and you write reviews on Amazon or whatever. So you will really connect to this. And that is a big reason why I ended up loving this, because this is about our main character who is staying for a while at this, not Airbnb, but like she's house sitting basically for this person. And it's in the middle of nowhere. And the only person that's within like a 20-mile radius is her next door neighbor. He recommends her a book on Kindle. And he's like, it's like 99 cents. So she gets it and she reads it and she hates it. She hates it. She writes on Goodreads a review of the book and lists out all the things she didn't like about it. It's not like she's just like, this is trash. I mean, she is like, this is trash, but she says all the reasons why. And then the author messages her and is like, take your review down. Take it down because you don't understand. Because he is such, oh my God. He is such a misogyny. Oh, he is disgusting. Like Andrew Tate, he tells her to take it down and she's like, no. Reviews are for readers, not authors. And he's like, okay, well then I'll make you take it down. And he goes about stalking her, finding her, and trying to kill her. It's wild. It's a wild. Like there's so many crazy things that happen in this book where I was gagged. I was freaking loving it. This guy writes this long thing of like, oh, like, you know, P.S. if you'd carefully read my book, you would know that they didn't go hiking in high heels. They just had high heels in their backpack. You're wrong. Okay, but he spells your Y-O-U-R. And she responds, and the only thing she responds with is the little star sign, and it just says, your, spelled correctly.
Pow.
It's the smallest cuts that hurt the most. Like that's hilarious. And that kind of stuff happens all the time where this guy thinks the absolute most of himself and she is constantly riffing him. Like, oh, really? Because you smell like Mountain Dew. Like, it's just funny and it's a really good time. I highly suggest if you need something that is going to take your mind off of anything. And then we have a contemporary romance. I know. Who is she? Who is she? She is one of the legion of women that loves this book. And I read it because of that legion. And it is Part of Your World by Ivy Jimenez. This is a book about a guy, Daniel, who is a small town mayor and he has a pet goat and he runs like a little inn. Okay. And then the woman that's 10 years older than him, that is this like really well-renowned surgeon. And she comes from a very famous line of surgeons. And they want her to take over the hospital. And she's like, I don't want to. Like, she can't handle the stress. She doesn't want to do it. But she has this immense pressure to do so. She stumbles across him and they immediately have a connection. And she's like, well, like a one-night stand won't hurt anything. But then she's like, okay, like, I kind of like have feelings for you. And he's like, oh my God, I like, definitely have feelings for you. Oh my God, you're like the hottest woman I've ever seen in my freaking life. But they have such different worlds. Like, they come from and live in polar opposite situations and communities. And it's them trying to figure out how they can make those work together and if they can make them work together. It was so good. It was so fun. I was kicking my little feet. I freaking loved it. And I know that I've said this quote before, like many times, but if you've never heard me say it, this is one of the funniest things I've ever read in a book. My vagina has officially been closed so long, I'm afraid a spirit Halloween is going to move in. When I tell you that I went back and listened to that in the audiobook 6 times and laughed every single time. The second to last book, oh my God, is another contemporary romance. Ali Hazelwood, Love Theoretically. I adore this. I adore this. And honestly, now I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't put it on the best and I put it on honorable mentions. Seems foolish of me. I read this because I heard that the main character has diabetes. And the representation in this book, in my opinion, from my own lived experience, is really good. Now, obviously, it's based on research and not lived experience, and you can tell, but it's done with a lot of care, in my opinion. And it was like, how are you making diabetes, like, romantic? How are you doing it? Like, I don't understand. So we have our main character who is down on her mother. Look, she is a penniless, okay? And she is a theoretical physicist. And he is a practicing physicist? I don't know, whatever the thing that's not theoretical. He does the things and she thinks up the things. So they don't like each other because those two fields of science apparently hate each other and think that the other person is like an idiot. Like, that's not even real. Like, you're just coming up with theories. Like, blah, blah, blah. And then the other people are like, oh my God, all you're doing is doing. You're not even like coming up with anything. So they are kind of enemies to lovers for a couple reasons. That, but then also our main character, because she is not making money doing this theoretical stuff, she has a side business where she pretends to be people's girlfriends for events, like going to weddings or family events or whatever. And then when she goes to do this like fellowship, this guy, who's the guy that she has been going on fake dates with, brother, is the one running it. He's the one in charge. And she's like, oh, sure. He thinks my name is so-and-so, but it's not, it's this. He thinks that I'm a teacher. I'm not. What are we doing? And he's like, you've been lying to me and my brother for like 7 years. Like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. It's so funny. It's the banter. It's so cute. I freaking loved it. This here, with diabetes, this was relatable to me so freaking much. But she's talking about how her parents, she overheard them after she was diagnosed, discussing how expensive it was going to be to deal with her diabetes, that they didn't even like go into how it was going to affect her. The immediate thing they thought was how expensive it was going to be. And she thinks, I don't blame my parents. My brother Lance did eventually flunk out of school and now makes an excellent living as an electrician, just like Lucas did end up getting arrested, albeit behind a Shake Shack and for possession of drugs that are now legal. Mom and dad were tired, overwhelmed, a little poor. They'd hoped for a break, something easy for once, and I was truly sorry I wasn't it. To make it up to them, I've tried to make my health issues and any other subsequent issues as ignorable as possible. I find that people like me better if they don't have to expend emotional energy on me. And I was like, dude, the way I relate to that with my diabetes, like, I absolutely never want it to be a burden to anybody else. Ever. Which is a detriment to me in my life on many occasions. But anyway, this moment here, I die. He says to her, in my fantasies, you allow me to keep an eye on you. And when I really let go, I imagine that you let me take care of you too. It does sound outlandish. Why? Because in my head, no one has done it before.
What a sexy surprise.
I love this man. I love this man. I love him. Five stars. I can't believe. Am I going to read everything Ali Hazelwood comes out with now? Yeah. And the last book on this list, clocking in at only 2 pages longer than Love Theoretically, is Murder Your Employer by Rupert Holmes, Volume 1, McMaster's Guide to Homicide. Now, one thing I'll say, is I do not suggest only physically reading it because this book is very dense. It's very dense. It's long. There's a lot of long-winded things going on. The audiobook is narrated by Neil Patrick Harris. So that is how I would intake the story. I did tandem because the way that this book is laid out is gorgeous and there are gorgeous illustrations through it. So I know that's a lot to ask that you have both, but that's what I would suggest. So this is a comedy thriller, I guess, like a literary comedy thriller. It's funny and people die. I don't know what to call that. So this is about McMasters. Okay. It's a school and have them teach you how to get away with murder. And it's because the school is like, you know what? Some people deserve to die. Some people deserve to die and somebody's got to do it. Okay. And maybe you legally can't get anything on them. So somebody's got to do it. Might as well be you. And they teach you like the art of murder and how to not get caught. And when I tell you, one, this is such an interesting concept. It is so freaking interesting. It is so much fun. It is so funny. One of the things they do is that they are having a feast and they're like, something here is poisoned. And if you have been listening to all of our studies and everything, then you will not be poisoned. If you are, tough luck. So he says, he's blessing the meal. Heavenly Father, who gave life to all creatures on this earth and then thought it would be just as good an idea to give us death. Thank you for the bounty we're about to receive and also for the bounty which is not on our heads. And may all of us soon be saying amen at the funeral of our targets. Amen. That's hilarious. Okay. And then on the next page, I swear to God, he says, should you fall ill and not recover despite our best efforts, you will be remembered at a touching ceremony this Sunday and entered into the McMasters annals with a citation for valor, despite showing such poor taste. Like, that is so freaking funny. Literally, like, this guy's giving a speech and he's like, if any of you ingest the poison and you don't survive, we'll put a picture of you on the wall for a couple days. You're welcome. Like, that's hilarious. That's funny. I'm definitely going to read the second book, though it has not been determined whether that will be happening, but I truly hope it does. Okay, that RV. What time is it? It's gotta be late. Good God. Listen, we're going to keep it in. We're going to keep it in. This is the life we're living, and you need to know. Okay? We're not holding anything back. We are an open book for your enjoyment, for your review. Those were the 11 books that I have as my honorable mentions because they were good enough to take a permanent spot on my bookshelf. So if you've gotten this far into the video, then leave a rose emoji because, like, again, these roses, this is stunning. Like, who's the cover artist for this? This is so freaking gorgeous. Leave a rose if you've gotten this far. If you have read any of these books and you love them, you could let me know down below. Or if I've convinced you to pick any of them up, you could also let me know down below. I would love that. And I hope that you are going to stay tuned and watch my best books, my worst books, my most disappointing, my end of year book tag, all of the things. Also my end of year book haul and my end of year book unhaul of all the books that I will be unhauling for the entirety of 2023. Because I held on to all of them. Yes, I surely did. Okay. I forgot to say, if you want to follow me, this outro is insane. Get it together. If you want to follow me on Goodreads, Instagram, Patreon, they are always linked down below, as well as a myriad of other links to help support the channel in many different ways. And I hope that you are all having an amazing day, evening, night, dusk, dawn, whatever it is you're having in whatever part of the world you are currently having it in. And I will see you in a video coming very soon. Bye.
The library, darling. Because reading is what?
Fundamental.
You could try to play it, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain. Pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane. Pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above.